Okay, so moving on, we have now Romulo. Romulo, welcome.
Thank you so very much. So glad to be with you here.
We are also glad to have you here. Okay, so we have 3 minutes before the half hour. So you please tell me if you are ready, if you want to start now, or...
I certainly am.
Okay, so let me introduce you, and then the microphone will be all yours, okay?
Thank you.
So just give me a second, and... Okay, so welcome everybody. We are here at the 24th WFSF World Conference performing from the Humboldt Carré at Berlin, Germany, and this is the online program. We are on the last day of this conference. It has been a great conference. We hope that you continue following us next years, and remember that we have a conference every 2 years. So we hope to have you in the next one. So we are having the last presentations. We are having this and then another 2 more, and that's it, okay? So for now, we have the future of technology applications, a blueprint for accountability, performed by Romulo Werran Gayoso, which is an economist with over 15 years experience in Fortune 500 companies. His work is in econometrics, Monte Carlo simulations, and scenario planning. His dissertation is in applications of scenario planning in geopolitical, biomedical, and energy sectors, designed to help policymakers make more informed decisions. He is a published author, keynote speaker, and regularly contributes to a variety of projects in the foresight and futures arena. Currently, he is the editor of the International Market and Competitive Intelligence magazine. So, Romulo, welcome, and please begin.
Thank you so very much. So first of all, thank you so much for the WSFS, for the opportunity to share. So thank you, Alicia, for doing this beautiful work and welcoming all of us and running the show. And thank you, my colleagues, for the opportunity to be with you, such distinguished members of the community. And my goal is to share a little bit of the work and see what you guys think, and hopefully I'll get some feedback and the dialogue will continue. So I hope you can see my screen. I'm sharing the paper proper. I will be talking from the paper. So I will start with my agenda for today. First, I'm going to talk about the evolution, or how technology evolves and how society evolves, or how society changes. I'm going to use one case study. So I'm going to touch on drone technology, on specifically one aspect of drone technology. I'm going to talk about a catalytic event, and I'm going to explain why you see this, why is this important. Then I'm going to use 5 different lenses, or 5 different frames to analyze what's going on. I'm going to pose a series of emerging trends. I'm going to show you a couple of images which I think are impactful. And then I will close with what I call the blueprint for accountability. So the whole gist of the paper is around technology and how do we hold people accountable in the use, or should I say misuse, of technology. So with that, let's get started. So this is the shortened version. I can't tell you, I have stories, metaphors to tell you, but I just can't do that in 20 minutes. So first is I'm setting up so what is the environment? What are we talking about? So we're talking about 2 concepts. One is the evolution of technology, or how technology changes, or how technology evolves. And the other, on the other side of the picture, is society. How do we change? How fast or how slow societal change takes place, right? So first of all, when you think about the rate of technological change, the literature favors the use of one term called, so basically it's the life cycle approach. We measure the introduction of a product, its adoption, it's of course in phases, right? then we reach some maturity phase, and then we abandon the product. So the product becomes obsolete. So this body of literature virtually evolved. So this has been around since the Industrial Revolution in England, but it has been adopted or has been seen more use in World War II about consumer goods, adoption of consumer goods. So if you go back when, right? So and black and white TV happened there. Both of them actually of years to be fully by society. If you fast forward to the present and you think about the cell phone today, now the rate of adoption and the rate of obsolescence for the cell phones is measured in months. So not years, not dozens of years, right? So months, just a few months. In the United States, a cell phone after 3 months can no longer be called new. It's considered, quote, old. Okay. So now contrast that with the rate of societal change. So I'll just name a few cases, right? If you think about Plato, right, the author of the Republic, and considered one of the exponents of democracy, right? Plato was a slaveholder. If you think about, Benjamin Franklin, founding father of the American Revolution, Ben Franklin, of this. If you look at the United Millennium Goals for women, looking around it, we're still not there. So society evolves ever so slowly, or the rate of change in society, acceptance of change, or the way we change as a group is slow. So technology moves fast. Societies change slow. And so there's this gap between the rate of introduction of new technology and the way in which we process this information and we react to it. So in this gap, it creates some tension, right? You see this tension manifested in the form of privacy rights. In the United States, if I Google your address, I get a picture of your house. And here it's considered, oh, how nice, how good, how interesting. But in Germany, that's illegal, right? I cannot take a picture of your doorsteps or your house, right? So some societies think, well, this is okay, this is good. No, that's not okay, that's not good. So we're struggling with the technology, and different societies, and even our societies are not homogeneous, right? They're heterogeneous. We struggle. We don't know, is this acceptable use of technology? Is this not acceptable use of technology? We need time to digest all of this. But before we start to digest, technology already changed, right? And so now we have the Ray-Ban glasses. Now I can, if I walk through you or into you, I can take a picture of you without asking for your permission. So we haven't even had a chance to talk about that yet. We're just talking still about whether or not I can use the picture of your house. So you get the gist. And so society moves slowly, and technology moves fast. How do we relate this new technology or whatever new technology there is with the uses we consider acceptable, right? So I will use one specific case study. So I'm going to talk to you today about drone technology. By the way, I'm not talking about the cute guy that flies around and delivers the book you ordered online. I'm talking about military drones. I'm talking about technology that has the capability to cause serious bodily injury or can take a life. It's a military drone. So this is a simplified sketch of the technology. How does it work? So at the center, you have this drone flying around and it has a camera. The camera is used, it's a high resolution camera. It's used to recognize places or people. In some cases, it can recognize you through the retinas. Then we have a satellite flying around. It's no different from your car. It needs a GPS so that the drone knows where it is. And then if you look towards the left-hand side at the bottom, it has a base station. So an operator sitting with a joystick, pressing buttons, telling the drone what to do. So if you want to mesh this picture, this is a jamming signal. If you jam the signal between the GPS and the drone no longer knows where it is, so it doesn't know what to do. If you jam the signal between the base station and the drone, now the joystick is being pressed, but the command is not being received. So the drone flies around aimlessly until it runs out of battery and falls to the ground. So that is, or it was, the current state of technology. up until a company in Turkey introduced what is called true autonomy. So what do I mean by that? So now the drone is uploaded with a geodesical map. So the drone flies around and has a camera. So if you interrupt the communication between the drone and the GPS satellite, it's okay. The drone just looks around left and right, up and down, says, well, I know where I am. I know where I'm going to go. It's okay. Now, it is enabled through AI to make decisions. So even if there's no one person pushing the button or telling the drone what to do, the drone says, don't bother. I don't need you to tell me what to do. I know what I can do. I will go around doing whatever I can, whatever I was programmed to do. So true autonomy is a couple of things. One, allows the technology to navigate on its own. Two, allows the technology to identify a target, so you can tell a cow from a dog from a person, and one person from another. It can select a target, and then it can deliver a payload. By that, I mean pull the trigger. The drone can select a target and can fire its weapon on the target. Now that I said that, so there was a catalytic event. So this is not science fiction. This is not theory. This actually happened. So it took the United Nations 1 year to generate a report explaining what in the world happened in the desert of Libya. So basically, a warlord in Libya purchased this product. It's an STM Cargo 2 drone, fully autonomous drone, and released it in the battlefield. So no one was piloting the drone. No one was giving commands to the drone. The drone flew around. The drone picked targets. The drone eliminated targets. So the drone was taking life autonomously without human intervention. It's a machine killing people without human intervention. Okay, so that generated a lot of stir, a lot of this raises a lot of issues. So why do you see this? Well, this is a text mining tool from Dow Jones. It's called Factiva. All that I did is I put all the articles published that have autonomous weaponry published in 6 European languages throughout whatever media I could find. So we started talking about this back in 2011. There were 2 articles. And nowadays, there are in excess of 600 articles published every year. So this is in our minds. We are talking about this. We need to talk more about this, okay? The autonomous weaponry, autonomous weapon systems going around and taking lives, okay? Well, this is of interest. It is actually happened. It took place. It's real. And we are talking about it. Now, use a series of what I call dichotomy lists. I use 5 different frames to look at this problem. So we're still talking about the same thing. We're still talking about drone technology, a drone flying around with a camera, and a drone with a weapon. Okay. So on the left-hand side, left of whichever way you're looking, so you have a drone piloted by a military pilot, and on the other side, you have a drone piloted by AI. I put, so the term slaughter-bot was coined not by me. It's basically a technology that takes life. There's no face, it's a software. So I just put a face in there so that you see it's not a human. So what are the 5 frames? One is historical charter. What do I mean by that? So historically, we as humans, we enabled or we allowed the military to take a life. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. We just said that historically, we entrusted the military the authority to take a life. Now we have this emerging model, right? So in the past, I mean, go back to Nebuchadnezzar taking Jerusalem, the Pharaoh sending his armies through Nubia to expand from Alexandria down to Sudan, nowadays Sudan, right? Or Alexander the Great, or the Roman generals. The military takes a life, okay? Now, the emergent model is if in the United States we say, well, the weapon picked up after itself, it loaded and walked around shooting, okay? Is there a problem with that? I don't know. Now, the second lens is called legitimacy of application. So the military person or the military pilot, okay, the military actually are a constitutional actor. The existence of the military is predicted in the constitution of most democracies. There are standing armed forces, except for in Costa Rica, right? versus the application we saw was used by a warlord or a guerrilla. So say on one hand, we have a legitimate application, a legitimate user of technology. On the other hand, we have an illegitimate user of technology, right? The third frame is called accountability, right? We know who the drone military pilot is. He or she has a dog tag there, officer sitting in a base, a military somewhere, jurisdiction of a country. This person is fully accountable. On the other hand, it took the United Nations a year to come up with this report because we can't pinpoint anyone specifically. So who's responsible? The buyer of the drone, the seller of the drone, the one who deployed the drone. Who is responsible? We don't know. The fourth one is called the agent or the morality of the agent. So the military pilot, he or she, has a set of morals, a code of conduct, rules of engagement. And that we don't know about the drone. The drone I call, it's not immoral, it just is amoral. It does not have any morals. It does whatever it was programmed to do. It does whatever it's able. So it's not, there's no guilt if it fires a weapon into a person because it doesn't understand guilt. Guilt is not a programmable concept, right? And then the fifth one I call the sentient being, right? So the drone pilot is a person. When that person pulls the trigger, it knows suffering or takes suffering, hunger. When you have an animated object, not a very good choice of latching means the drone does not have a soul. The drone can move around. So it can move. It's an object that moves and executes functions, but it's soulless, right? So what's the consequence of that? So I looked into a series of emerging trends that I wanted to talk to you a little bit about. So first of all, it causes an arms race. I'm starting clockwise from the right. So because the Turkish made a drone that can, how would the Chinese respond? And if the Chinese make a drone that can, how would the Russians respond? And if the Russians have a drone that can, how will the others respond? So we're starting an arms race in this type of technology, right? And what I call this is the race to the bottom. What is the minimum common denominator? So if the Chinese have a weapon or the Russians have a weapon, the weapon will have to be tested. Well, tested where exactly? So where would the Chinese test a weapon? Well, Korea rings a bell. Where would the Russians test a weapon? Well, Ukraine rings a bell. So we think about all those borders that are either already in conflict or are hotly contested, right? What would happen if you bring this technology there? So here in the United States, in January the 6th, our capital was attacked, right? It's well known. But what about the other European cities? No one is safe. What if someone attacks the Reichstag, right, with autonomous weapons? How would you react? Can you react? What should we do, right? Then the other category I call asymmetric impact. So it's a war between the haves and have-nots. Someone that has a technology and someone that does not have a technology, right? It's not a balanced conflict. The other aspect is what I call dehumanization of war. The drone is not that big, so there are no journalists embedded in the drone. We don't know what's going on. We are not flying around with the drone. It's military, so we don't know where it is, and they wouldn't tell you where it is or it's doing, right? The drone, nobody died, so no died. So body bags covered with flying back. Well, it's okay. Nobody died. So we generate this dehumanization of war. We think it's okay. It's just a piece of equipment or machinery. Who cares, right? Now, this weapon is unconventional. Okay? This is not a regular type of weapon. Okay, imagine you're in a city and someone releases a swarm of drones, military drones into the city. Who exactly would the drone go after? You, I, the first responders, the police, the politicians, a specific group of people. So this would sow chaos and terror in a city, right? A city attacked by a swarm of drones. Who's the target? You are, I don't know. We don't know. We don't know who is the target. We don't know what the drone will be doing. So this is psychological warfare. This technology is more or less out of control, right? We don't know. We lack accountability. We don't know who is accountable, right? There is no oversight, or little to no oversight, right? It is today autonomous, but it's increasingly more autonomous, and it's untraceable. Okay? We can follow the money, right? But it took the United Nations a year to identify who were the actors and who did what, right? So in situations like that, if you think about it, well, nuclear weapons, oh, those are regulated, right? Biological weapons, those are regulated. Chemical weapons, those are regulated. What about the autonomous weapons? Those are not regulated. So maybe there's a space for us to talk about the regulation of this technology. Now, I wanted to show you one image that you probably have seen before. So if you recall, this is Tiananmen Square, where the Chinese repressed the manifestation or the uprising in Beijing. And this is the column of tanks that was going by. But the column of tanks ran into one person. So what happened? Well, the Chinese tank pilot sitting inside of the tank looked at the Chinese man standing in front of the tank and did not run him over. That's why we have this picture, right? Now, the tank pilot and the persons outside acknowledge each other as sentient beings, as human beings. The Chinese tank driver did not run this person over, okay? What if we're talking about a drone tank pilot, okay? The drone tank pilot would look at this and say, what? Obstacle? Run over, right? And end of story. So we would not have seen this picture. One of the most famous pictures of the last decades is this one. This would not have existed, would be science fiction, because the drone tank pilot would just run over this individual. Now, in terms of a blueprint for accountability, I do not have to reinvent the wheel because the wheel was already invented. Well, I'm borrowing from different industries. So the first industry I'm borrowing from is the illegal drug trade, or somewhat illegal drug trade. In the United States, we have a methamphetamine epidemic. So people buy and sell the drugs. And how are we reacting to this? Well, there's precedent. We have the buyer, right? We have the seller, right? So the one who consumes. And we have the physicians who prescribe. And we have the pharmacies that actually enable the drug to be delivered. So we have those four agents. But here in the United States, we are going after agents abroad. So the United States engaged with China, and we're going after not just the buyer and the seller, but the maker, the methamphetamine lab, the maker of the drug that sits in China. So we're saying, well, there's a co-responsibility between the buyer and the seller. There is a co-responsibility between the physician and the pharmaceuticals or the pharmacy that deliver the drug. But there is a co-responsibility on the maker. Now I'm going to borrow from a different industry. So the other industry I want to borrow from is food. So food in the United States is regulated by the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration. And so if you make some claims about the food, it better be true, because it will be tested and your story will be corroborated in terms of whether or not the food has the features you claim it had, right? In the US, we struggle with something called the obesity epidemic. So another epidemic here, right? So people overweight. We don't eat right. But on top of that, there's marketing. So people tell us, eat this and you're going to lose weight. Drink this tea and you're going to lose weight. Eat this food and you're going to lose weight, right? So there are lots of claims. And so people are making money out of people's desperation to lose weight. And often, can a carrot make you lose weight? Well, probably if it doesn't have, butter on top of it. But people make those kinds of claims, eat more carrot or eat my tea or drink my food or drink whatever I'm trying to sell you. But on top of that, because it's not easy to convince people to buy a product, well, we have celebrity endorsements, right? So what is a celebrity? So what in the world would pick a celebrity, a singer, know about weight loss? Nothing, right? So we use the singer that comes and says, drink this fabulous tea, eat this special carrot that can only be produced in Milwaukee, and you're going to lose weight. So I love this singer. I'm going to buy this special carrot from Milwaukee. Well, whether or not I lost weight, it's a different story. But the celebrity plays a role. The endorsement plays a role. And the literature, what the literature establishes here is how strong is that role, okay? So does the celebrity influence you? Not a little bit, quite a lot. Or was it the deciding factor on your decision to make the purchase? So the person has a role, the recommender or the enabler. So I'm going to borrow this concept of the enabler into the drone problem. So I have the buyer of the drone, the warlord in Libya. I have the seller of the drone, right? The company in Turkey that make the Cargo Dash 2, right? Then I have a few other people. I have the foot soldier on the ground that released the drone. I can't take, it's a guerrilla person. I can't identify that person. But I can identify the maker, the company that produced the drone, and I can identify the enabler. So I'm talking about the computer programmer. So the AI was created by human hands or by human intellect, I should say. So there is a co-responsibility between the buyer and the seller, the seller, the company that sold, the warlord that bought. We have co-responsibility associated with the one that released the drone, ultimately into the theater of war. But then we have the responsibility or core responsibility of the programmer. And so I'm putting my finger on the programmer. The entire claim of the blueprint is none of this would have happened but for the programmer, the one who wrote the code that enabled the AI, which means enabled the drone to fly around, not needing the GPS, enable the drone to use the camera to identify a target, and allow the drone to pull the trigger and kill someone. That is the main responsible party. The others are co-responsible parties. But I'm putting my finger on the programmer. The AI creator ultimately is responsible for those deaths that took place in Libya. Where is the programmer? We can research, but we can identify it's an employee sitting at that Turkish company. So my entire claim, or the claim I'm trying to make, which is of course up for discussion, is we need to use the co-responsibility. Then we can borrow it from other industries such as drug dealing, pharmaceuticals, food production, and anyone that enables technology somehow. The enabler has a key role in this entire process. So I am just look at my clock. I am on time. I want to again thank you so very much to WSFS for the opportunity, Alicia for monitoring and taking care of this. We'll turn over back the time to you and answer some questions, comments. Thank you again.
Thanks to you, Rom. Lots of information. So this is very nice to share with us in these few minutes. So thanks a lot for that. Okay, we'll see if somebody in this room has something to ask, something to comment, or maybe the people at the streaming that wants to write something down on the chat or so.
So I don't have any questions or any comments. I just want to congratulate Romulo for the work and his presentation.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Alan. Okay, anything else? Anybody else? So everything went just totally clear, Rom. Okay. Okay, so we have 4 minutes before the next session. So Rom, if you want to say some words before moving on.
Yeah, so I would love to have you guys help out and comment and give me some thoughts and advice. So I've been working on this. I'm passionate about this. It's not clear cut, the issue of accountability, the issue of responsibility. But I talked to quite a few people about this, and they say, well, the employee can say he or she was compelled to enable technology that he or she knows that will be used to take a life, but they were, quote, compelled. So there are lots of issues around assigning accountability or responsibility. But what I'm trying to say here is We need to start somewhere. I mean, we regulate food, we regulate drugs, we regulate nuclear weapons, we regulate chemical weapons, we regulate biological weapons. We need to come up with some kind of framework. This is not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I'm really just putting the idea out there. But we as futurists, so the future was fast forward to the present. This is not science fiction. The United Nations documented the use. I mean, I've seen documentation of several other uses of this technology around the world. And one in Jammu, Kashmir in India, where they actually use kamikaze drones that blow up on people without human intervention. We have to discuss as a society, do you think this is acceptable use? I mean, you can basically derive what I'm trying to say, but if we decide that it's acceptable, that is fine. It's okay. But we as a society, we have to have the opportunity to discuss this and put it in front of our peers. And we as WSFS, we have a moral obligation, I believe, to come out and say, we think this is acceptable use of technology because we always say so. Or we think this is not acceptable use of technology because, okay, and then I use the 5 lenses. You can use different ones. I don't know. And by the way, I'm not saying the military are right or wrong when they take a life. I'm just saying historically, we said they could. And they are predicted. They're an agent, a constitutional agent, right? Or a constitutional actor. So we allow them to do that. Not even police we give this anymore, right? In our societies, we debate, can the police really take a life? We're debating this, especially here in the US. Can you take a life? We don't know. We have to go back and revisit. In very, very, very special circumstances, right? If we go back to the Hammurabi Code, the first code we have, right? Historically, in the Code of Hammurabi, they predict life-taking or punishment, but only in specific situations and by an officer of the court or someone in the army, quote, armed forces. Now we have this technology that picks up after itself, walks around, loads, fires, discharges, and takes a life without human interaction. There's no big boss saying, go out and take someone out. What is this? We're doing things because we can, and I'll compare men to women. So we men, the frontal lobe does not mature until we're 30, and some can claim until we are past the crisis of midlife crisis of the 40s and 50s for men, and women mature much faster than men do. But we're acting like juveniles. We are doing things because we can. But just because I can doesn't mean that I should, right? I don't have to run in front of a bus to know that would cause me, great injury. I don't have to. I can, right? I can release an autonomous drone into Libya. But if someone releases it in Washington, D.C. or in Berlin or in Mexico City, okay? What if a drug dealer gets a hold of this technology? It's not that expensive. Right? What if he or she decides to take out all of my cartel enemies? And by the way, while I'm at it is, let's take the police chief out as well, or his family, or her family. We don't know. The technology advanced so much in China, they could identify people through the use of retina, right? So they can pinpoint you or I on the street and say, well, let's take out this guy, Ram. I don't like you talking about my drones. I can be a target, you can be a target. But we as society, we need to come to terms with that and decide, is this okay? Is that acceptable? Or do we as a society need to sit down and prescribe something around it? That's what I'm saying. We should prescribe, we should debate, and should come up with some kind of recommendation here. We have a voice, let's use it.
Right. So this is a key topic that should be put in a worldwide agenda. Thanks a lot, Rom. Great apportation. Okay.